This is the Mountainside Podcast, and joining us in studio for this episode is the founder and creator of Blood Origins, Robbie Kroger. Robbie has been on my short list since the inception of the podcast. It is truly an honor and privilege to have him in studio. The work that he does around the globe to raise awareness about conservation, the importance of hunting, indigenous voices, and so much more is unparalleled. He's a true artist and perfecter of his craft in filmmaking, but above all that, he's an amazing human. I really enjoyed sitting down with him this afternoon, and I hope that you enjoy our conversation.
Bobby.
Welcome to Evergreen.
Yeah, thank you.
You are a bucket list guest for me. I mean, really since the inception of the podcast, you and I have kind of been going back and forth. I've hit you up, several times as wanting to get you in here as a guest. I think the main reason why is the work that you do is absolutely remarkable to me. I have learned so much. I grew up in a hunting family. Mm-hmm. I haven't hunted around the world. I haven't really hunted outside of Colorado. So you telling those stories of guys in South Africa that are PHs or indigenous people that are surviving off of whatever meat the hunters get and just all those sort of stories, I learned so much. It is so fascinating. But I think the main thing that I really like about your approach is, and there's a few other guys out there that are doing it, like Donnie Vincent and my friend Donnie Dust. You just really tell the story beautifully. So if you're not a hunter, you can understand it a little bit more. And I think we need that more now than ever.
Yeah. Well, number one, I'm humbled to be here. I'm always humbled to be on anybody's podcast. Somebody wants to listen to me talk for, 45 minutes to an hour. Man, that's amazing. That'll never get old. And regardless if somebody has 2 people listening to them or 2 million people listening to them, I'm always going to say yes to someone who's like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? Because, at every opportunity, you have no idea who you're meeting. You have no idea who you're touching. You have no idea the seed that you're planting in someone's brain, someone's thought process, someone's soul about this thing that we love and cherish so much, which is hunting, and really exposing things around hunting that nobody really, they may second guess or they don't really think about. That's my job. My job is to make you see things, experience things that you may never have, again, ever thought of from a hunting activity perspective, or, oh, wow, I never thought a hunter spoke that way, or could do that, or could be like that, or could sound like that, or have that emotion to the thing that, and it's like, oh wow, I resonate with that person. And sometimes we have a story that you're like, that one didn't hit me. That's okay. There's going to be one that does hit you, and when it hits you, it's like, oh man, that's my guy or that's my girl. So yeah, I appreciate the introduction.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Appreciate being here specifically and for the debut of Lionheart. That's the reason, right? That's you finished in your intro talking about creating content. We create content for non-hunters. That's what we say. Hunters absorb our content. Hunters watch our content. Hunters share our content. But really, we're creating content to convey this idea of hunting, convey who a hunter is, to someone who doesn't hunt, to someone who doesn't know who a hunter is, or has a negative perception around who a hunter is based on seeing a video or seeing a post or something. I'm like, let me introduce you to the people that I know. Let me introduce you to the heart of the people in the community that we engage in. And that's what Lionheart was built for, is that Lionheart was built to explain the most vilified practice in hunting, arguably around the world, which is predator hunting with dogs or predator hunting with hounds. That is such a mountain of a topic to convey to someone who goes, wow, that's unfair, that's unethical, how dare you use the dogs that way, how dare you, chase a predator, they're scared. There's so many things. The mountains is huge that's in front of us. And so Lionheart to me was a mechanism by which I can convey through film beautifully the day in the life of a houndsman.
It's a masterpiece. I mean, you cannot.
Oh, I sent it to you, didn't I?
Yes.
Oh, you've watched it?
Yeah, I've watched it several times. Yeah.
It's not even out yet.
I feel like a good friend already, man. Like, that was super cool of you to do that. And the film is just, it's put together so well. Like, your cinematography skills and from a director standpoint and then post-production is unparalleled. I mean, it's award-winning.
Well,
right?
it is award-winning. Lionheart has won a bunch of film awards already. But from the get-go, from a Blood Origins perspective, and anything that we build beyond Blood Origins, what I needed to do is I needed to separate myself from the pack. I had no idea what I was getting into. I'm a scientist. I was an environmental consultant. I have a steeped heritage of hunting in my background that's in my blood. My grandfather was this huge hunter in Russia, Germany, Tibet, Mozambique. My father, grew up in Mozambique as a teenager. I grew up in Johannesburg, 8.5 million people, bigger than Denver, in the center of it. And I never talked about hunting. I didn't have friends who hunted. It was just that I was the audience that Blood Origins is trying to target right now. And so I had to, when I started thinking about this idea of storytelling around hunting and like what did I want to do and how did we want to convey it, I started sort of trickling my toes and fingers into this industry. And I saw Sportsman's Channel and I saw the Outdoor Channel and I saw Pursuit Channel. I was like, okay, everything looks the same.
It's such a horrible representation of what the hunters that I know and my family members and that kind of, it's like you can't put it in a 15-minute film, right, with commercial breaks and all this sort of stuff. In my perspective, that's why I've been a fan of your films and like Donnie Vincent, and that long-form content is unreal. I think that's why I've enjoyed podcasting so much, because it's a genuine conversation, and we don't really edit much out of our conversations at all, unless like a camera goes down or something, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, it's just, clip to clip. And me being on several lion hunts, not as a hunter, but just going with houndsmen, because I was intrigued with it. I grew up here and it was a way to help, and it was for me to go do something cool. You can't put that into words, or even your film doesn't convey the hard work that you actually
that's
go
the thing.
through.
Like, we had to try.
Like, it's unbelievable that you were able to capture what you did.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
We had to, in a long form documentary, we essentially had to explain what a lion hunt is. And that it's not just this happens like that. It doesn't. It's an arduous process. It's over the roughest ground you can possibly go after. Sometimes you're not going to see a lion for days. It's different conditions. It's snow, it's fog, it's dry ground. There's so much to it. There's the packing in the morning. There's the mules. There's the horses. There's going home at night and doing it again, starting at 3 a.m, ending at 9 o'clock at night, doing it again. So how do you convey that in a film? That's what we tried to do. Like, we tried to explain that hunt over a 24-hour period, but pull it enough that everyone's like, geez, this is crazy what's going into this. And then we've got all the different characters in different formats, in deep snow with snowmobiles and trekking through thigh-deep snow to try and get to where the dogs and the lion are. You got the dry ground guys in Nevada. You got the guys in snow and falling snow and horseback, the Meekums down in southern Utah. And you blend all those stories together to just really, it's the beginning of the day, the lion in the tree, and everyone pulls their dogs off and walks away from the tree. The lion gets off the tree, and everyone goes home.
It's not a hunting film, really.
Wasn't built for that. It was built to convey what a lion hunt is, but more importantly, to convey the true heart of a lion houndsman and their relationship with their dogs. And so,
which is so cool, man. It's like the human connection with dogs is unbelievable, but that, when you have a working dog, and if you've been around them at all, those guys care more about their dogs than probably me
Oh, for
or the
sure.
hunter that they're taking out. I mean,
and the amount of money going into those dogs is insane.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and then them breeding their own packs, and them. This is like, there's one of the characters in the film, Josh Whittaker, and he says, "You're only a true lion houndsman when you have your own like line of dogs. Like that's the next echelon, right? Like you can buy 5 or 6, build a pack, and be a lion houndsman, but when you start getting different bloodlines from different places and create your own bloodline. Like these are the Whittaker hounds, and people then want your hounds to lion hunt with.
Well, and that's the thing too, is it just goes generations deep, right? Like those bloodlines, the dogs go generations deep. Like,
yeah,
it's a very family oriented business too. Like, I think you conveyed that really well too. I love that aspect of it.
One of the things that never made it into the film, and I don't know, I'll have to look to find the footage to see if we can use it. Excuse me. My intent the entire time, actually, we changed how the film was going to be built. Like it was, as we've been talking about, it's built in a day kind of scenario, morning to the end of the hunt. Initially, going into the filming, it was going to be the life cycle of a dog. So we've got puppies being born. We've got footage of puppies being born. We've got stealth cam footage. We didn't use any of that. We've got baby puppies with Cleve and Becky. Then we've got even smaller grown puppies with the Meekums. And then we actually have a dog dying. And we have it being buried. And the whole scene of them digging a grave and putting the dog in the grave and the whole thing, that never made it into the film. And that's what I wanted to end the film on. Like I wanted this really joyous life cycle of a dog, and then the reality that these dogs die, and the dog gets buried, and then end the film with like puppy noises again. Like this full circle has come back around. But I got overruled with my production team. They were like, "Oh, we can't end it on such a sad note, man. Like you have to like." And at the end, it does add an end on a more like passionate note. The way that we've built it out now.
I think the timing can be perfect. I mean, you started production on this long before anything came up on a ballot initiative?
No, the timing is perfect. The timing is unbelievable. We've been working on Lionheart for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about impeccable timing.
Yeah. So we just hope, the film is what it is. We obviously had we had the event in Denver. And now it's publicly available, or soon be publicly available, so that everyone can see it, everyone can share it. We'll put it on mechanisms here in Colorado for people to see it, the non-hunting audience to see it, and hopefully it changes people's minds and their actions at the ballot box.
Man, you've done a great job of conveying that, and I urge you, whether you're a hunter or not, just so you can understand what a houndsman is, this is the perfect film to do that without actually physically being with one.
Yeah,
it is. It's great. Where can people go to watch it now if they're listening to this? Is it available on your guys' website, or is it strictly YouTube, or is it a paid purchase type deal?
If this podcast drops and it is publicly available, it's not going to be a paid for purchase scenario. Okay. So it'll be on our YouTube. It'll be on we've got a website. I think it's lionheartthefilm.com. I think I bought that domain.
Oh, you have a specific website for the film?
I think so.
Awesome.
It's been a while. Yeah. I did buy that domain, I believe.
Can you look that up for us, Tyler?
Look it up. Lionheartthefilm.com, I believe. Just
maybe go straight from the Blood Origins website.
Yeah, I'll go from the Blood Origins website and see if you can.
I think you got it open up there already, too. So.
It's up there already. There it is. Yep. Yeah. And then go to Project Stories. Documentaries, and just scroll down, and Lionheart, there it is. If you click it, lionheartfilm.org.
Okay.
So that's the trailer, and so we'll replace the trailer and we'll put the big film on it.
Definitely go and at least watch the trailer. It'll give you an idea of what's it like. There's not.
Yeah, we got
any animals in this dying. Like, it's not a hunting film.
Yeah. And two badass women, lion houndsmen, Becky
unbelievable
and Ashley.
women, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, pretty chuffed at how it came out. Really chuffed at how it came out. And the cherry on the top will be that the ballot initiative doesn't pass. That'll be the cherry on the top.
I'm sure hoping so, man. It's this is something that I'm super passionate about just because I grew up in right here, a mile from here, and my family homesteaded most of the drive that you did on the way in.
Oh, wow.
Like all those old barns and stuff.
Sure.
Their cattle ranch.
Wow.
A long time ago. But there's stories of them preferably eating elk. And the first time that they got into archery hunting when, Fred Bear made it very popular at the time. And so it just goes generations deep. And I didn't grow up with a whole lot of money, single mom. And hunting was kind of I wouldn't say free, but the closest thing to free that I got the most enjoyment out of, right? Because it didn't matter. Although there is some competition in it nowadays, right, with social media and all that sort of stuff, It was never about that. And it's still not about that for me. So I think those just generations going back, it was kind of that mystique of them being bow hunters. And then, fortunately, me not growing up with a dad, I had a grandfather and uncles that this was what we did, whether it was for rabbits or elk, but really just a Colorado elk hunter. Like that smell of elk urine and calling and just the majestic side of it and camping and being with your family. And then at the end of the day, eating the meat was unbelievable. I mean, we couldn't afford to go buy ribeye steaks. So elk steak, having a freezer full of that was awesome. And then, I think it's bred into my genes because even though my family ran cattle, they took elk as well, and they ate it, even back then. Like, it
Will
was
you bow
preferred.
hunt around here now, this September?
I'm really fortunate. I've been putting in for a certain game unit here. Not this specific spot, but the first place I shot an elk was right here, probably 20 miles from here.
Okay.
Yeah. Back in a wilderness area, and it was epic.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was 12 years old with an uncle, that brought me out with a bow. Like,
amazing.
Yeah, unbelievable scenario. And then I'm not hunting far from here. It's really hard now because the amount of infrastructure that's here now in subdivisions and just everything, like,
they haven't changed the game units because of all the infrastructure and stuff like that?
There's just less hunting space in this particular game unit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But no, they have. I mean, I think back when I hunted, it was still the same game unit. They've just added multiple game units and broken them up into smaller game units, and it's a lot more for them to manage now. It's unbelievable. It's a lot different too. And then, not to mention that, it's not a very although there are still a lot of people here that hunt and specifically elk hunt and that sort of thing, it's not a very accepted thing in this town anymore.
In Evergreen?
In Evergreen. It's a very liberal kind of artsy type feel, like a little bolder a little bit, right?
Times are changing, hey?
Yeah. So it's kind of this oil meets water, right? Because there's this old culture and there's still a lot of horse people here. There's still some cattle ranches that are here, but there's not as much as there once was. And a lot of people have left because of that, just because of the growth here, I think, and the change in people's view.
And that's what you're facing, again, what we're seeing at the ballot box, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing this ballot initiative to ban mountain lion hunting and bobcat hunting. You've also got that fur ban, right, of the city of Denver and the county of Denver. And Dan Gates was talking to me about that fur ban. He was talking to a friend of his who I think owns a fly shop in Denver.
I don't even think anglers realize.
Well, that's the thing. He was talking about the ballot initiative for the mountain lions, and the guy was like, I think I'm going to vote yes to get rid of it. And Dan's like, you got to be kidding me. He's like, no. And Dan's like, you know that there's a fur ban, right? Coming as well. He's like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, the same guys, same people, same mindsets are coming after fur, which means the beaver fur cowboy hat that you love to wear, love to buy,
Which is a Denver staple, right? Like we're very like Western town.
Yeah. You cannot buy it. You can't use it. You can't create it in Denver anymore, or the county of Denver, or sell it. I don't know if selling. I bet you can't sell it either.
But a leather sofa is okay. This is what baffles me.
Well, the fly fishing guy. Then the guy's like, so he's like the beaver, the beaver tail that you want to use for your flies. Mm-hmm. Can't use that anymore.
The elk hair.
Foxtail, elk hair.
Elk hair caddis is like a staple here.
Yeah, you can't use that anymore. And he's like, what? No way.
Yeah.
Like, who are these people? And he's like, exactly the same thing we're saying. Mm-hmm. It is crazy.
No,
but it's the time we live in.
It is. It's disheartening to me that it goes to the ballot box, because I don't think, for the most part, I don't think the general public, and it's showing, like, what is it? Like 4% of the general public are hunters, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not a those are
very small.
Really the only people that can understand it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that was one of the best points made in the Lionheart film, was like, for everybody that knocks this or doesn't believe in it, I encourage you to just come spend a day with me.
Correct.
To see what it's about, right? And I think that's where hunting kind of gets a bad name, because it's no longer a way of life. It used to be a way of life. It's how we used to get substance. It was us going to the grocery store, basically, mm-hmm. right? And that's the experience that I had from it as a young man. Was I was providing for my family. I felt good at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, that I was able to provide steak. We don't have to eat boxed macaroni and cheese, right, or government milk or whatever, was on the WIC program back then.
Yeah.
So I think that connection is really what needs to be told. And I think that you're doing a brilliant job of doing that. And then we're just so fortunate right now to have, like, with everything that's going on, Dan Gates mm-hmm. is an absolute
rock star,
awesome human.
Yep.
I love that guy. I love sitting down with him. I love hanging out with him outside
when
of that.
When he straightens his beard, he looks even better, man. He's a magician.
And the grizzly claw and everything. Yeah. I mean, just that whole character. But his personality is so authentic. Mm-hmm. Like, you cannot duplicate it. It's not fabricated. I mean, he gets recognized everywhere he goes, like, for good or bad, right? But just an incredible human. And then, we have organizations like Hal, like Charles,
yep.
That is just doing some amazing stuff just to make this more aware. And I think, openly talking about it on podcasts too is why I've dumped so much effort into it. I think is really, I know it's helped firsthand. I've had people reach out to me that we have a ton of people that listen to this thing that have nothing to do with hunting, but yep. they know that I bow hunt.
Yeah.
And they know my feelings about it and what I do, and that sort of fan base that doesn't resonate with hunting. The first thing that they see is they're going to ban cat hunting, probably, is like, that's great. I don't want cats to die.
Sure.
I don't want animals to die.
Sure.
But the underbelly of that is so different, right? And I think that's where you tell the story beautifully, not only in Lionheart, like from around the globe.
Well, it's just it's an education.
In Africa.
It's an education and an awareness, right? It's to the people, and it's from an issue like banning lion hunting here in Colorado to a ban of trophies in the United Kingdom to someone in South Africa saying you don't need to hunt anymore because you can go to the grocery store to get your meat. It's tackling the person who says at the end of the discussion, at the end of them watching something, saying, "Oh, I had no idea. Oh, I didn't understand. Oh, I understand now. Thank you for explaining it to me." Because that's the other thing that we do, that we feel like we're changing, and I see it through other people's comments and whatnot. We have a very unique demeanor about us online. We're very authentic. We're very honest. We're very respectful of people online. Online, number one, you can't understand a person's sarcasm or wit or anger or anything. You can't see that in the comment. You just read it for what it is. And more often than not, it's mistaken for something else. And so anything that you can do in that social media space to just sort of diffuse the situation a little bit, whether it's being honest, like there's a picture of somebody behind a black bear and it looks terrible. You're like, yeah, it's a terrible picture. I agree with you. But let me explain what black bear hunting is. Let me reach out a little bit instead of just going, you're an effing snowflake. That's not doing
I think
anything.
It's that oil and water that I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's the old versus the new, or whatever it is. And it's very toxic because it's shots fired and shots returned. Is what it is, really.
And the thing is that you're never going to get anywhere like that. We're never going to get anywhere for our lifestyle if that's the mechanism by which you do things. I was just on the way up, I was telling Ashley, we were just dealing with a video that came out of Australia of a guy that was really upset about a situation. And rightfully so, and could absolutely, put his point of view across. And his message was great, but his delivery was terrible because he dug up things about this person in her past, put pictures of her being a stripper, all these things that you're just like, wow, why did you go there? Mm-hmm. For what reason? Because then that person saw that and has reacted to that, and not in a good way for us. And his entire community that watched that video got stuck into her privately. And she screenshotted all of these messages from hunters saying all these just absolutely
we cannot
derogatory
take politicians' tactics. You can't.
It was it's and I can guarantee you.
Was this to ban bow hunting in Australia, right? They're trying to...
Well, South Australia right now, their ban is in place, but there's a petition that we're pushing for hands off, and the pressure is mounting on the governor there. He doesn't have to enact it. It's also an amendment in South Australia. It's not a change in law. So if a new party comes into play, which this October is all the elections, then that amendment can easily be undone. Well, the next door state, Victoria, is very heavy in anti-hunting. There's a lady called Georgie Purcell, and that's who I was referring to, who leads the Animal Justice Party in the Parliament in Victoria. Our billboard promoting hunting, we've got a billboard right now that says hunting is human. Big shout out to Mike Costello and Hal for giving that phrase, hunting is human. We've got a billboard in Victoria right now. Behind my billboard is a digital billboard, and she bought a billboard to go against our billboard. So she knows about us.
So just the other side of it?
Yeah. But
depends on which way you're going,
but she's going to, because she got all this inflammatory stuff, this derogatory stuff in her DMs, I can guarantee you she screenshot it. I can guarantee you she's going to bring it up in Parliament. Mm-hmm. And she's going to talk about, these hunters want to tell you that they're respectful. These hunters want to tell you that they're good people. Well, let me read you some of the DMs that I got from hunters.
100%. Now it's ammunition, right? And I think that's one thing that I've tried to convey on here and encourage. If we do have people that are bow hunters, or if they do own a fly shop, or if they're a bow tech in an archery shop or something, just be freaking nice to people, man.
100%.
Just like drop your ego at the door. Like, this is the only way that we preserve this. The only reason I'm really passionate about it now is, man, it is a lot of hard work, right? To go and be successful on an elk hunt is a lot of hard work for a fat guy. Right? I realize how out of shape I am every year that I go elk hunting, which is a great reminder. But more importantly for me, and the reason, and we were kind of talking about this before we hit record, that I moved right back to where I grew up is like, I want my kids and their grandkids to be able to experience the same things that I loved about Colorado. Like, catching a trout on a dry fly is unbelievable.
I can imagine.
It doesn't matter if it's a brook trout that's, 14 inches with the right weighted rod and tippet and all that sort of, you might as well have caught a marlin at that point, right? Like, it's that exciting to me. And to instill that in my kids and just an appreciation for nature, I think is probably one of the most green things that you can do, because they get disheartened now when they see trash in a river or somebody, mishandling a fish. Like, they get upset, right?
Yeah.
Or
how old are your kids?
They're young. So my oldest is 13, and I have a 6-year-old.
Okay.
So I got a long ways to go, right? So I'm hoping by the time that they have grandchildren that they'll be able to experience some of this. But just what has been taken away in my lifetime, and then going that many generations deep, knowing my family stories and stuff and what's been taken away from them in their lifetimes, the track record is not good.
Yeah.
It is not good.
Yeah, and I think it's, some of the things that I think about constantly is, yes, you're right, it's not good, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. Okay. But you look at, so for instance, let's just focus on this Colorado mountain lion initiative, okay? It hasn't just arrived. It didn't just happen in the last 6 months or last year. They tried legislatively, got shut down. They tried through the commission, got shut down, okay? Before then, they were probably 5, 8, 10 years of working on doing something like that. Mm-hmm. And then they went the ballot initiative process. So they've had a runway of 10 to 15 years. These guys have been working to get to this point for 10 to 15 years. We haven't. We as a hunting community haven't been thinking, how do we protect the right to hunt and fish over the next 10 years?
We've never been good at it until right now, I think.
Well, and honestly, I think now people are starting to think, okay, how do we put a long-term strategy in place? How do we do this in 10 years' time? Where are the places that we can claw back things that we want? Where are the things that, we win this ballot initiative, it goes no. What's then the next step for CRWM? Mm-hmm. Probably a right to hunt and fish.
100%.
In the state of Colorado. And that's where you want. Or even change it. Do the Florida model. The right to fish and hunt. Mm-hmm. Because how many anglers are in the state of Colorado?
So many more than hunters.
So many more. And you put them together to say, guys, this is being stripped away from us. We come together and we put it in place. And it's going to be so tough to do an initiative in the future or something like that to undo this right to the constituents of the state of Colorado. But you need to be thinking that way.
Yeah. And I think that, one thing that's hard with this too is there's so many other issues on the planet right now. Not just in the state of Colorado, but look what we got going on in just the United States presidential debate right now, right?
Yeah.
And race. It's entertainment in itself.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's in a federal election year, right? That this ballot initiative is with it. So
it always seems to get slipped in there on the federal.
Well, don't. It seems.
Yeah.
No, know that doesn't. It is quite
it's
well
strategically planned.
Correct.
Yes. And then, the other thing that I encourage people to do is pay attention to this stuff because it's always way down the ballot. Wolves was initiative when we voted on wolves 4 years ago.
Which one? What number was it?
116 or something.
You have to answer 116 questions?
By the time you get to it, you got county commissioners and school systems and school lunches. And,
the ballot is enormous.
You don't care by the time you get there.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but
talking about wolves.
Yeah.
You saw the news today or yesterday.
I haven't.
The Copper Creek pack is going to be rounded up and moved.
Oh, well, go figure.
Go figure, right? It's like the stuff that everyone was saying, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, it's going to happen. It's coming to fruition. And that's also, we should use that as a little bit of ammunition to say, look, this ballot initiative process to reintroduce wolves, look at what's happening. Mm-hmm. It's not going to plan.
We knew how it was going to go. This is a great point that Dan brings up all the time, and we brought it up back when we were kind of but just figuring out about the reintroduction of wolves before we voted on it. I tried to cover it. It was very infant in the podcast. Don't go back and listen to it. I was probably one of those oil raging guys, but I tried to be fair about it. I tried to have both sides on. I tried multiple ways to just raise some awareness about it because I was concerned about elk populations and the moose that we have rehabilitated and put in here. And it wasn't like I think wolves are amazing animals.
100%.
Yeah. But in a state with 7 million people and highways everywhere, 2-lane roads, I mean, this lake right up here,
yeah,
you could throw a rock and you'd have a greater chance of hitting a paddleboarder on Saturday than not hitting one and making a splash in the water. Like, there's just that many people that recreate. And I'm not knocking that, man. I think it's here for everybody to enjoy. But you can't tell me in the size of the state and what we have, there's not going to be negative interactions or negative encounters with wolves and people. It's going to happen. Like, there's going to be bad things that happen. And it's not only not fair to the people that might lose a dog or a pet or maybe, God forbid, human life, right?
Sure.
But just think about the wolves. Those poor wolves just literally got dropped here about a year ago, and now they're being retrapped and they're going to have to be put into a new spot.
Which is going to have its own issues.
Figure it all out again.
It's going to have its own issues. It's not. You're not solving the problem. Solving a problem. You're just going to. Who knows? Nobody can predict these things. Nobody can predict what's going to happen.
Actually, there are people that can kind of predict it. Well, we have game and fish and wildlife biologists that we pay from the state that will tell you what is a good and a bad idea to have healthy populations of every species.
Sure.
Right? And we don't listen to them.
Well, as I understood, CPW couldn't say anything.
Yes.
About wolves back in the day.
It was a gag order. Like,
they can't say anything about mountain lions either.
Yeah.
So, no, it's, again, the way that I look at this process, I'm a big fan of the public, the true public saying, that's wrong. Us stand up as a public and create a ballot initiative to change it. Okay? I'm not a fan of coercion to get to that point, which is what the signature gathering firms do, is coerce you to sign. Okay? I'm not a big fan of the idea of an initiative that messes with the business of wildlife management, science, that kind of stuff. It's the same thing. The example that I use a lot is it's the same thing as your Department of Transportation, say. You, Bobby, are pissed off that of all the cyclists in Colorado and the amount of road that they get given is too much. So you want it to be smaller. And so you're going to get a ballot initiative passed to make it smaller. Well, it's that size because the engineers, the guys that are experts in infrastructure development, road development, say that's what it needs to be. So the ballot initiative process in this realm of wildlife management, Department of Transportation is saying, we don't want to listen to the experts. It's our opinion that needs to be smaller. Or the bridges need to be wider, or the bridges need to be less costly. It's that kind of, it may be a sort of a weird example or a really stupid hypothetical example, but it really speaks to the point, which is you're messing with people that have spent years from an education perspective doing the thing that they are employed to do for the state. Engineers, wildlife biologists. It's what they study to do. The general public are not engineers. The general public are not biologists.
I couldn't agree more with you. And I think the general public, they just don't have the full story, right? I think that America as a society, and I would argue, probably 60 to 80% of the world, we have these preconceived ideas of what something is. Like Africa, for example, unless you've put boots on the ground, you think if you're going on a safari,
exactly,
that you're going to see elephants and lions interacting, and you're going to see the Lion King script, right? Like that's kind of the mystique. And like, to me, Africa was always the most, because I watched so many wildlife documentaries and Planet Earth and, you know, like these amazing films that captures a lot of this stuff. You just think that it's just this vast, wild, uninhibited, like space until you land in Johannesburg or go to Cape Town and go to the nightclub scene, right? It's a little bit misleading. And then when you do want to go out and experience some of this, especially in South Africa, it's kind of a caged situation. You're kind of in an open zoo a little bit, you know?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I would argue, but it's not just this vast thing where wildlife takes care of itself. Like, I don't think that they understand the poaching situation and what hunting actually provides. And this state is a great example. If you actually look at how much money goes back into the species habitat, not only the species, but just recreation in general, outdoor recreation. It's unbelievable what hunting and fishing
it's a great
pays
model.
for.
It's an amazing model here. You know, Pittman Robertson, Dingle Johnson, it's an amazing model of how those two activities give back to state conservation efforts through Colorado Parks and Wildlife. That model doesn't happen in South Africa. It doesn't happen in Africa. South Africa is a very different model. It's a private land model, like a Texas model, essentially, which is the value of the animals are given to the owner of the land, and you decide what you want to do with those animals. You hunt them, you photograph them, you breed them, you manage them, you sell them, do whatever you want. But it's giving a value to the animal, just like Pittman Robertson and Dingle Johnson is giving value to the animal. The value there is a little different than it is here, but the result is the same. You've got a flourishing, sustained wildlife and fisheries across the United States as well as in South Africa. South Africa went from 500,000 head of wildlife in the mid-1970s to over 22 million head of wildlife today.
Wow, that is fascinating.
That's a huge amount. It's a huge jump. And it's like, well, why? Why was there such a jump? Well, one, there was drought happening in the mid-1970s, early 1980s. And all the cattle farmers and sheep farmers and goat farmers are like, man, we can't survive.
For water.
No, we can't survive. The animals can't survive. But wow, that springbok seems to be doing pretty darn good. Well, that kudu's doing pretty darn good. Why don't we look at those guys? And so that's what happened, is they turned their attention to those animals, wild animals, and then the law changed, in which then the animals belonged to the private landowner. And so then that's when it flourished, is that, oh, wow, we can actually make returns on wildlife now. And so that's antithetical to the North American wildlife model, but it's a very good model for wildlife conservation. North American wildlife model is a very good model for wildlife conservation. Both of those are pretty much the gold standards for wildlife conservation in the world.
Which I think is important in all aspects, probably more than anything, right? That's what we all enjoy.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I there's nothing more majestic than, like, what made my drive commuting the kids around last night was seeing that bull show up. I was like, yep.
It's that time of the
year.
It's
3 days before archery season, right? Yep, moves right in on the golf course. And it's just taking those moments, taking it a step back. And I think that the way that you bring up some of this to attention, I've learned so much. Like, what I learned about rhinos and elephants from you is unbelievable. Like how elephants can cross cattle guards, and there was the whole electric fence project. That is truly amazing. And then I had no idea about, like, rhinos and elephants probably wouldn't be around if it wasn't for some sort of...
Well, elephants are doing pretty good. Rhinos specifically, if it wasn't for hunting, it would be...
Nobody wants them, right?
Well, nobody wants elephants. Nobody wants elephants. But rhinos right now, the problem with rhinos is, number one, the horn, right? The horn, here's the sad statistic. A rhino is worth 1,200% more dead than it is alive. 1,200% dead than alive. Because the horn is so valuable in the black market trade. And so you have, again, you start thinking parallels to Colorado and banning of mountain lions. There's a whole cadre of individuals that are like, lift the trade ban on rhino horn. We've got so much in stock. All of these countries have so much in stock. The security costs around rhinos is astronomical. Let us use the horn to protect the species, flood the market, make it legal. And here's the other crazy thing. Rhino horn is the most expensive, renewable resource in the world. It grows 2 kilograms a year on its horn.
Do they shed it all?
No, they just grow. It's keratin. It's like your fingernails.
Okay,
so your fingernails constantly grow. The rhino horn constantly grows.
And what are people after it for? Is it a
aphrodisiac?
Okay.
And daggers,
that makes
dagger
sense.
handles.
Yeah.
And so, but there's no science to the aphrodisiac. So there's work on the education component from a China perspective on that. But there's still old ways and traditional ways. But if you could just open up the trade. Look at alligators and crocodiles. They opened up the trade after they were almost extinct.
Yeah.
Super endangered.
They're kind of creating their own black market, right?
Well, they create this supply and demand, and then people can actually, and it'll guarantee you that rhinos will flourish. Mm-hmm. But you have this whole cadre of animal NGOs that are like, no. If you open up the trade, it's going to lead to illegal activities and poaching. Well, that's what's happening right now. But here's the crux of the matter. If that happens, all of these big animal NGOs are out of business.
Right.
Because they're like, we need to save the rhinos, we need to save the rhinos, we need to save the rhinos. Give us money, 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 money. It's like, no. These are the guys doing the saving. Give them the ability to trade in the horn so that they can sustain the operations, protect the rhinos they have, and grow the rhinos. And then start putting them back into places that, has been poached out. The national park in Kruger National Park has lost 75% of its rhino through poaching.
Man, that is disheartening.
It's just, and they're helicopters, they're suppressed rifles, infrared, the whole kit and caboodle. They are methodical, very well funded, and ruthless.
Wow. Yeah, it's we're doing a similar thing here with combating cartels with illegal grow operations, of substance. Like it's
Is it illegal to grow here in Colorado?
Not here in Colorado. You can only have, you might have to look this up. I think you can have a certain amount of plants, like maybe 2 or 3 plants or something like that. But what's happening is we have this vast open public land that anybody can enjoy and walk on. And there's not a whole lot of security to get on there. And there's not a whole lot of people that actually use that space. Mm-hmm. So not specifically here in Colorado because it's not the best climate to grow.
Yeah.
But like Northern California.
Oh, for sure.
Like John Norris. Have you read any of his stuff?
I haven't.
We've had John on the podcast. He's incredible. He was a California game and fish game warden. And all of a sudden got put on I think it was, what do they call it? Marijuana enforcement team.
Okay.
Where these guys went and like trained with Navy SEALs and Green Berets and Army Rangers and stuff so they could actually combat. And they were getting in firefights, like helicasting into Northern California. So these guys, they would take down these cartels, and the way that the laws were set up in California, they would get arrested and then just get released. And they would just go right back to where they were at. And these cartels were crazy. And just
6 plants per Colorado resident.
Okay. That's quite a bit.
No size restriction, right?
Yeah. Yeah, let's take a break. I do too. All right.
If you're not checking out the Mountainside Podcast on YouTube, you absolutely should be. If you like the content that we create here and you want to help support the podcast, please take a moment, subscribe to us on YouTube, and hit that notification bell.
How much longer do you want to go, Robbie?
Let's go another 5 minutes.
Okay.
5-10 minutes.
All right, we're back. You got a lot going on, Robbie. I really appreciate you stopping by and taking the time out. It's like the drive took longer probably to get up here than we recording today.
It doesn't matter.
But I was like, I'll take any time I can get with Robbie. So we got to have you back. I think, one of the things that you do is you tell everybody else's story beautifully, but never your own, man. No. You got to do a documentary on yourself.
Yeah,
it's and the conception of Blood Origins. Man.
It's the way that we started with Blood Origins was what I saw in the hunting community space was everybody about themselves. Like it's very ego driven.
It's a very selfish ego.
And so I was like, man, how do we do this that is selfless? And so I started by telling everyone stories. Like I honestly, in the beginning, you didn't even see me or hear me. And so I sat on a couch with a guy called Cuz Strickland, who's like the grandfather of Southeastern hunting filming. Okay. And I showed him a couple of episodes, and he was like, man, this is amazing. He's like, you need to be in this. I was like, no. This isn't about me, cuz. He was like, no, but you have to have some part of it. And so the way that I allowed myself to be a part of it was I was then allowed to be the bragger of the individual. So they can't be ego-driven. They can't talk about themselves. Well, they could, but we didn't want them to. I can. I can talk about this guy, Snow Hewitson in New Zealand, who's this, crudgety old fool that just loves tar hunting. He can't tell me how passionate he is. I can tell you how passionate he is, if you feel my drift.
Gotcha.
And so that's why in the beginning, you only saw very, very, I think probably the first 40, maybe, you only saw me like 3 times. But you heard my voice on every episode. And so when I went to conventions back in the day, nobody knew me. It was awesome. And if I was speaking to someone, somebody would stop and go, hey, you're that Blood Origins guy, right? I was like, yeah. Now, unfortunately, like my face is everywhere.
Well, social media too. The shorts are like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, so that's just how we started, man. Yeah. And like, we've got some big dreams. We've got some big things moving in the background right now of us growing in terms of different voices. But yeah, it's difficult when somebody says, hey, we should do a documentary on you, for me to go, yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. You should really do it.
You need somebody else to do it, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I'd be absolutely humbled, but again, this isn't about me. This isn't about, what, again, it's not about me. It's about like, what are we trying to do? How are we trying to change this thing? And, we get sucked in. We've talked about it already. A lot of people get sucked in. They're like, oh, what are you doing? Like, what have you done? I said, well, we've done all these things, but we're not playing short term. We're not playing like for it to change this year. Mm-hmm. We've got a 10-year vision or 15-year vision or 20-year vision. These are the things that we want to change. And it's going to take that long to change perceptions and minds and narratives and rhetoric. Just simply like Google trophy hunting. Google trophy hunting. Can you throw that up quickly? I'll show you something that we're working on. Just Google trophy hunting. And then hit images. Terrible images right away.
Yep.
Terrible, right? And go back to the all. What's the top search on all? Trophy hunting. Oh, that's not too bad. See, Humane Society, trophy hunting.
Oh, but see, that first one is an advertisement.
Yeah, but look.
Yeah.
Look, Humane Society. Why is not my goal in 5 years is Blood Origins is going to be right there, or something a similar
100%
is going to be there. When you go to the images. So we're working behind the scenes right now. There's going to be images of villages and of communities and of people up in this space, not just all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So those are the things that nobody ever thinks about when it comes to like, how do you change narratives? When somebody types in trophy hunting, oh, have we put a bunch of money behind SEO that's constantly working in the background and AI that's working in the background to change just a simple Google search of trophy hunting? Mm-hmm. No, but we are. We're thinking that way. That's where we're going.
That's so smart. Because, that's the first thing I do when I need to fix my car or whatever. And you're just led down whatever path they take you on, honestly.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, look, even National Geographic, like, you just got... And that middle photo, that fat boy with the lion is used all the time against us.
Is it?
All the time.
Those
and
are
you never
all horrible photos.
But the thing is, you're never getting rid of them.
Yeah.
You've got to you're never getting rid of this stuff. So how can we change it?
You just have to get it at the top of
we
the page.
need to get it up the top of the search page. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, how are you funding all of this? How does that
So we have supporters that just donate the cost of a cup of coffee a month to us.
That's incredible.
$4, $5 a month, whatever you want to give, you can give. And you get entered into monthly giveaways that you can win. Like right now, we've got a Colorado cow elk hunt that you can win.
Sign us up, Tyler.
We've got a Traeger bill. You need to sign up
Those
before.
things are awesome.
You need to sign up before the end of August.
Yeah, okay.
So and then we've also got like
This
a concert.
is going to drop after that. So
But there's going to be things in September and October. We're going to have 12 days of Christmas in December. We've also got a conservation club, which is where companies say, hey, we want to donate and support the mission. You get a little bit of indirect marketing. I mean, that's not what you're doing it for. The way that we approach things is very different. You support us because of what we do, and we're going to the horizon, and you're helping us get there. It's not us pimping you and pimping your product. And so that starts at $25 a month all the way up to however much you want to give from a company perspective. And then we raise money through all sorts of different things. We approach foundations, we have ideas, we have projects, we have documentaries that we raise money for. But those are our two base models.
That's awesome. If you're listening to this right now, open the show notes. There's direct links to Blood Origin where you can subscribe or donate. Is it a donation? Or
it's a donation.
Okay.
Yeah, 501c3.
But more encouragingly, I encourage you to go to the YouTube channel, subscribe to that. Unbelievable content. Go and watch some of it, and then you'll know why you're subscribing or sending money. It
100%.
really it shows through.
You
the
see
work
it every
is
day.
Phenomenal. Yes.
Every day.
Robbie, thank you so much, man. I want to be respectful of your time.
Thank you, boss.
Anything you want to close on, or any other information out there?
Yeah,
Go. Lionheart will be in the
watch
show.
Lionheart.
Yep.
Watch Lionheart. Turn down the lights. Turn up the volume.
Get some popcorn. That's
some
what I did when you
popcorn.
sent it to me. I was all excited.
Get yourself a brown drink or whatever beverage of your choice. And then, most importantly, take that link and share it with your friends and your family and your community, specifically those that don't hunt, that don't understand it. Share it and say, just watch this. Just spend 40 minutes and watch it. And you'll understand hunting a little bit better.
Absolutely. The link to Lionheart is also in the show notes, so you can find Blood Origins or the Lionheart film link in the show notes. Then also Instagram and the YouTube channel. So
100%.
Go and subscribe to all of them. Check them all out. Amazing stuff. Robbie.
Cheers, Bobby. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you making the trip.
No worries.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. If you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.